I live in Redding, California, and I've been quite vocal about these caste issues for last 10 years, mostly on Facebook, and I try to devote my time raising awareness basically amongst my friends and community around on these issues. So I didn't prepare any topic related like that, but I wanted to briefly give a small journey about India's or our journey as people from the spiritual moral superiority that we were in Buddhist era to where we are today, where we have daily rapes of little girls. So this is our journey where we have reached, and I fully blame the caste system for it, and I'll talk about on that issue, our moral degradation basically. So what I believe is all of us as people or as a society, it's not exactly the same thing but similar. We strive or we work to do better, achieve something greater than ourselves, and that's our inspiration, right? That's our inspiration to do something better. There are two ways an individual or a society can do better: by actually doing better, and by the other way is by making somebody appear less better. Our society chose, Hindu society chose the second way. By the Savarnas, claimed themselves superiority by designating certain people inferior. They didn't do anything superior. They just designated them and felt better about themselves. Okay? So with that, that's what started the moral degradation of Hindu society, where and mind you, the consolidation of caste system that started it all led to this whole process, and what it is upheld by violence and corruption. We complain about corruption every day. You see rallies going on, but nobody wants to link it to the original problem. This is just a final product that we have reached. This started when we consolidated the caste system and never left a room for anything to grow, right? So going forward from there, any society, what happens in a society, what group of people do, the lowest denominator, the crime, the whatever comes to settles down on what you allow as a moral setting, right? And everybody falls to that default moral setting. Hindu society, in order to keep the caste system intact, or like I said, caste system is sitting on the backbone of corruption and violence. In order to keep it intact and keep the privileges of the Savarnas intact, what it did was it allowed all this to happen on purpose. So it's been going on such long that it's part of our behavior, how we do things, what we do every day. And so this saying we've reached here, we have to look back how we came here in the first place, right? So going further from there, it's been, and you look at what's happening in the news every day. And I read all these posts on Facebook, everybody blaming BJP is doing this, BJP is doing this. Within 2 years, we have degraded to what level? What are you talking about? These things have been going on gradually for all these years. BJP just increased it, and so you started screaming and shouting. It's not just BJP, you are doing it for last 2000 years on a chronic pace. And you're surprised at where you reach today? When every day the rapes are happening, news goes out in the outside countries, and you get surprised. But reality is, this has been an ongoing process. Chronic process, nobody's looking at it. they're just surprised what happened today. So going forward, now where we have reached, that's what I'm basically trying to say is, if you want to get some sense of morality, some sense of substance, we have to look back what started it and how we can end it. Our goal, ultimate goal should be for all of us, whether they are high caste or low caste, to end this process, because you will not reach anywhere with caste system. If you don't end it for your own benefit, even the high caste, they've gained enough privileges, they've gained enough, they don't want to look at it or confront their own privileges. Forget about low caste. For the benefit of high caste, they should be addressing it and destroying it, because they will not survive very far with it. And that's what basically I'm trying to get at this point is, it's need of the hour that we confront it together as a whole. Otherwise, India as a people, as a country, cannot survive any further. And Dr. B.R. Ambedkar gave us the whole pathway. We gave us the direction. We need to be following it. We need to educate, organize, and agitate about it. I believe time has come for all of us to come together and do something substantial in that direction, if we really want to survive as people.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions or new questions?
So far. So my question, the question is, I was reading this. It's talking about the inequality in social and economical. On the economical side, now is a great time with the internet, with the advent of technology, to really democratize the economic benefits, even at, across all the levels. How do we get not necessarily the venture capital model, but more cooperative model of enterprises being started in villages where all the sectors can participate in the economic benefit, so that the economic inequality can be avoided? Open for thoughts.
Okay. Anyone wants to answer? You want to answer?
I think economic inequality is a problem. We see it everywhere in the world, but it is more problem in Indian context, if you see. And the reason is we have two superimposed systems there. We have caste system and then we have capitalism system right now, sitting on top of each other. People who are already suppressed by caste system, they are further suppressed by the capitalist system there. And we enhanced it actually ourselves. So the problem that is happening is that right now, like somebody else mentioned in the beginning, that the previous reservation gave a little relief and people got a little bit, but right now because of the capitalism, open market entry, all the benefits gain that was gained is lost almost, because more jobs are not being created in the government sector, and the private sector there is no reservation. So I'm not ending, everything is not about reservation, but I think the major goal that we should have is in ending the inequalities, the land. Anywhere in the world, if you see, the land is where the people derive their resources from. Land is what generates money in one form or the other, either production or in the form of secondary benefits that you get from the land. But land is not there with the oppressed people. If you look at just Dalit statistics, combined OBCs only have about 5%, 4 to 5% land of the country. Dalits have 0.5% land of the country. This is the problem. This is the answer to your inequality. Unless we gain land, we cannot gain resources. We cannot gain anything to benefit from the capitalist system. Because capitalist system requires capital. Who has capital? None of the oppressed people have capital. And nobody is giving them capital, by the way. Banks don't loan them loan. They only loan to the high caste people. So where are they going to benefit from the capitalist system?
Okay, my name is Vivek Nalani. I'm a grad student here at Stanford, and thank you for a great event. I wanted to respond to this question very quickly. I also want to echo the point you raised about land ownership in India, which is obviously a highly caste-controlled sort of system. And whenever we talk about land ownership, there's a way in which we only think of legally owned land in terms of titles and deeds. But that's not the vast majority of land holdings in India. The deed and actual ownership in practical terms, in terms of control, are totally divergent, and they're policed by caste militias and so on. And there's a clear correlation between the kind of, a number of speakers sort of brought up honor killings across India. There's a clear correlation between that kind of overt, brutal caste violence, sort of extraordinary caste violence, I don't mean everyday sort of acts of violence, but extraordinary acts of violence and caste militias owning land. So, I just want to add to what you said earlier. Another point I want to raise is in terms of the incredible flexibility, I don't mean to sound admiring of capital here, but the incredible flexibility that capital shows in terms of adapting to existing forms of oppression, right? I was taking Uber in Bangalore when I was there last summer, and I was talking to this guy who couldn't really read the text that they were getting, and he had no idea what surge pricing was, and I was paying surge pricing, so I knew it existed in India for sure. And so I asked him, how he was working, what his sort of pay or what his salary was, and he was getting a fixed salary of 10,000 to 12,000, I think he said, per month, and he was staying in a house with like 8 other Uber drivers, all of whom operated taxis owned by this one guy whom he referred to as Seth, right? So what I'm trying to talk about here is how neoliberal capital, and Uber is perhaps the paradigmatic model of this neoliberal capital, right? It reproduces those existing caste structures word perfect. The translation is 100% accurate, right? So when we think about, and I'm thinking of thinkers like Chandrabal Prasad and the whole Dickey model of this enthrallment of these Dalit millionaires, and I think for every one of them, there's been tens of thousands of Dalit poor created and impoverished further in the last 20 to 30 years. So I think this is something that we need to think of, where the relationship between caste and capital is complicated, but it's by no means where one will come and liberate the oppressed from the other. It's not like capital is going to come in and you give credit cards to the poor and they're going to be empowered. That's not how that works. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, my name is Pavan. I'm a volunteer with Association for India's Development, the Bay Area chapter. So just a slight pivot away from caste and capital in the sense that's already been discussed is one of the things that we've learned from today's meeting, right, is just about different perspectives on the caste issue and Dalit rights and Ambedkar and such, right? And so what we can take away from this is our own increased learning, our own increased understanding of deep-rooted problems and our perspectives on these and other people's perspectives. One thing that we can also ask ourselves is, what can we do to change the system, right? Looking at this, you might despair at the deep-rooted nature of the problem and the large systemic problem that India faces. But there are things that we can do today as citizens of India and of middle-class India here in the US, where we can try and change the system. So one way to do that is to identify groups, systems, and people who are at work in India trying to change from the grassroots, these systems from the grassroots. So a really quick story on that. Before that, AID is an organization, and I don't mean to advertise AID too much. There are wonderful organizations that you've already been exposed to today. But AID is one volunteer movement that is doing a lot of work in India on a number of different issues: agriculture, livelihood, healthcare, education, so on and so forth. And if you're interested, please meet the folks at that table. Come and talk to us separately. I'm not going to advertise anymore for AID. But one story that I do want to highlight on this particular problem. How can we give back to the communities who are facing the most oppression and have been facing the most oppression for centuries and millennia, is a story that happened, an incident that happened last year. So we co-host a number of speakers here at Stanford and in the Bay Area, people visiting from India on a number of different issues. One such participant is a lady called Revati, who's an agriculturist and a passionate organic farmer. So she came to give a talk on the kinds of change that she's been spearheading in India for the last 12 years, 13 years. And a businessman, a local businessman here in the Bay Area, a number of you are aware of Shasta Foods, all of our batters that we use for making dosas and idlis and murukku and this and that, comes from Shasta Foods. So he was attending the talk, and driven by the fact that this agriculture in India is facing such a crisis, and this crisis is mostly faced or visited upon the Dalit and landless laborers, doing the farming. When he went back to India next, he visited one such village. People that we partner with on one of our projects. So these people have created a cooperative group, a cooperative society, and that was a landmark event in 2015. Why? Because they were Adivasi laborers who, until that point, had been systematically oppressed by the middlemen, the high caste people in that village, and essentially everybody else. They are the ones who did all the work on land that they did not own. The land was owned by somebody else. They did all the work, they faced all the risks, and they had to pay all the costs for very little of the profit. In fact, none of the profit. And because they were not getting credit from the governments, as Pravanad already mentioned, they were not getting any sort of credit, any sort of help, they created a cooperative society on their own. Started with 7, now it's gone up to many tens more. For the power of collective bargaining, for getting credit, for selling their produce at higher rates and so on. And this is a project that we supported. We got to know about it because of our collaborations on the ground in India. It's such a small project. If you think about it, it's like 40 tribal farmers in some village in Andhra. So if you reduce that to a statistic, it's nothing, right? But for those 40 farmers, it's a complete change, a transformative event in their lives. And this sort of transformation, I'm sure Mr. Chokalingam can tell you, people who are learning the power of physics and maths and biology just by watching videos, until the point that he translated into Tamil, it was unavailable to them. Until these people got the first credit from the bank, they had never seen money flow to them from a commercial, from a credit institution, a formal credit institution. So these are things that you can support, is all that I'm trying to say, all this long-winded talk. If you can, not just take this knowledge with you, but convert that knowledge into action in any which way you can. By partnering with people here in the Bay Area who are doing this kind of work, by partnering with groups in India. It might sound abstract and hard to do, but it is very easy to do. You just have to open your eyes and mind to possibilities that exist. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. So to close that story, Shasta Mani, So he went back to India, he found this group, and now he sources 2 tons of millet directly from those farmers to buy in the US. So there's no middleman involved. These people are getting a steady stream of revenue from Shasta Mani. Shasta Mani is getting those millets, those 2 tons of millets every year to make all the batter that we buy.
Thank you. Any other question?
My name is Piyush Tendulkar. To answer this question, I would say that learn from your enemies, learn from the Brahmanical system. On the bottom they have untouchables and workers. Above that they have Vaishya or economist. So you need finances, which you first talked about. But remember, above that they need weapons. Until the oppressed have weapons, finances will not work. So get those. And on top of that, Brahmanical system starts with the ideas. Until they get out of Hinduism, nothing else will work. So get the finances, get the weapons on top of that, and most importantly, get out of Hinduism. That's the solution. Otherwise, 1 out of the 3 alone will not work.
So we see that there are 2 types of distinctions in the society. One is class distinction, the higher class and the lower class. basically the haves and the have-nots. And we also see another one which is the higher caste and the lower caste. Now those people, how does, my question is, how does the reservation system help the people of the lower caste but who are also economically advantaged, like who fall in the haves category, like who have the money to go to a private school, go to a private college to get all the educations necessary to make a sustainable existence and then grow higher in life and get into a good college, good education and then a good job. Or should our reservation system be modified to include the economically less advantaged people who do not have the avenues to grow in life? So basically, should our reservation system be modified for the economically less advantaged people? So I want to know from the people here, what is your thoughts on it? Irrespective of the caste. Economically less advantaged people, irrespective of the caste.
Few data points. This is Daksha. The one thing, reservation is a representation, so that's the first thing. That's the first thing. And there are many people from depressed community. I'm one of it. Okay.
Hold the mic.
Oh yeah. So we reached to a great heights, perfectly fine. We got that reservation as a representation to reach here, but at the end, merit is there. Even though the meritorious people are there, let's consider the judicial system of India. How many SC judges or SC judges we would see? None. Why? Because there is no reservation. So that's what it means.
So anybody?
Okay. Any person you talk to, any high caste, anywhere, any forum, anywhere, this is the one and only one question they understand. This is the only question they want to know about, nothing else. Okay? Reservations is a peanuts. You've taken our gold and given us peanuts. We kick at your peanuts. Okay? We want to get all our resources back that you guys have stolen. We are not taking reservation. I will give up reservation. You give me back what you have taken. Number one thing. No, this infuriates me so much every time people talk about reservation. Reservation, first of all, where is reservation? If you see 100% job in the country, total 100% job in the country you have, reservation is in 0.5% jobs. 99% jobs are not reserved. And you're finding problem in that. Have some shame, guys. Some shame somewhere. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Moral degradation has gone to the level where you don't even question yourself. Talking about economic basis of reservation. Is discrimination happening on economic basis? Then why do you ask for reservation on economic basis? Now, third point. Talking about, you very easy, like you're donating some, giving me some charity. That I want to change the way you get this. Okay? Who are you? You have no control. You gave me, you don't even give me. I took it from you. Because you had no choice before the proof. Okay, if you had your way, even that wouldn't have been given. And you claim that you can change it in some format for me right now because I'm taking some charity from you. That's not the way it works. And that's not what it is right now. You know, reservation, if it is ever going to be changed, it's going to be changed by my consent. I'm the one who's going to dictate the terms, not you. Second thing is, the Brahmins are on the top of the Savarna non-reserved group. Okay? They are the creamy layer getting all the benefits right now. Do you want to exclude them from everything? If the day you exclude them from all the things that they are getting, I will exclude the creamy layer from the reserved papers same day. Get them out of the country. That's too much. No, but that's what you want. You want to take them out of the... You want to give the creamy layer, take them out, right? I want to take the creamy layer out from the... There's parallel groups. If you have problem with creamy layer of this group, why wouldn't you have problem with the creamy layer of the other group? In both the groups, creamy layer or economically benefited people are taking advantage, no doubt about it. Why don't you question the other group too? There are economically disadvantageous Savarnas or high caste. Why don't you have pity on them and give all the from the non-general category, why don't you give economic reservation to them and make them come up? Does that not question doesn't affect you? I think that needs to be addressed. Don't worry about reserved people. Worry about just general people. Give them some benefit. And that should take care of the problem. We don't need your worries. We can take care of ourselves.
It's a very great question. Okay, so we raised it. The economical, as Takshat put it, right? Basically, the reservation is one tool to achieve the social equality. It's one of the tools, many tools. Okay, if you look at the job market, whole job market of India, take 100% of job market. It's only 6% of the jobs are available in the government sector. Now, out of the 6%, how many percentage are available in the reserve categories? It is 27. No, actual percentage is 27%. You look at the now 20%, 27% of out of 6%. Look at how many jobs gets filled up. That's one. You can go and do it on yourself. I don't want to go into that. Next, let's look at the representation. Why do you think India has such a large number of NPA right now? It's about 4 lakh crores. 10 companies own 1 lakh 12,000 NPAs right now. 10 companies, 10 corporate companies. Let's look at those corporate boards. Who are there in the boards? What caste dominates that board? According to a survey, it is done. It's almost
Not survey,
actual data. A guy put in 3 years of effort. He went down around 3,000 companies and got the data from them. It's about 92% of upper caste. So, when people are questioning the reservation, can we question the same against the one who are privileged, that you guys have looted everything from India? Because it's 4 lakh crores in India.
For judiciary.
Yeah, that's one thing. Now let me take another example, the recent example of what is a problem. There is one news recently right now, 650 crores of Punjab National Bank, okay? Yeah. Scam, latest came up. The guy who did this, Agarwal, and the guy who helped this, Boyle, both of them were upper caste. How did that happen? Because of the caste social capital, basically. Yeah. So they are into that, everything. If you look at the number of heads of banks who can make those kind of calls, right? Whom to loan, whom to finance, it's 90% of upper caste. So that is the problem, basically, we need to address. According to the creamy layer, right? So we are asking the creamy layer of backward, OBC and SC/ST, right? Shall we ask this question repeated? Just reverse the question to the upper caste, like Pramila pointed out. So you have been entitled this privilege for a long time. Why can't we take yourself out of the system? Why do they need the IITs and IIM? You know IIT, how much per student IIT the government is spending? It's nearly 4 lakhs. And look at the people, the students come out of IIT, how many of them are contributing back to the India? We should look at those things also. And for your information, I think last time Karthi talked about, in IIT and IIMs, it's only from 83 onwards the reservation got implemented. Till that point there was no reservation at all. But it's about 30 years, one generation had lost that opportunity. Just to point it out.
There's no reservation in army also.
Yeah.
Judiciary.
Yeah, same thing, judiciary right now, Supreme Court.
But army also, so that's why Dalits don't have any weapons and power.
Yeah. Right.
Actually, the person who really want to find out the facts, how much benefit the Dalits are taking back in India, search in Google, Google Baba take care of every single thing. That will give you every number to 0.000%. Another thing, when we talk about the right about the reservation, when the upper caste talk about that, they want reservation. Don't forget, there is a manual squandering is still there. They should also ask for that job also. There's a people, the caste I am from, Chamar. जितने भी जानवर मरते हैं, all the cows and when they died, who take care of that? They are not written in the constitution that the only Chamar will do that. Brahman, Kshatri, everybody should do it. At the same time, when they call 4 Varans in Hinduism, when they come to the Shudras, they born from the feet. What kind of, it's not written by the God. It's written by the people, some people who, the people like who wrote the Manusmriti, Manavadi people, dirty-minded people who wrote this kind of, granths. They need to think about how the human can come from the feet. At the same time, our Rajkumar Hansi, when he mentioned God is fraud, what a suitable word. I have read not so many Granths, Hindu Granths. You cannot read those Granths in front of your kids. You cannot read those things in the family. Because every Rishi, most of the Rishi, rape their own kids. Brahmas, he just mentioned very good story. How we can pray to them for those kind of stuff?
You can answer the question,
right? No, what happened,
Because give others also time. Right?
Okay, so these are the facts, and truth is always bitter, but keep your eyes open. All those kind of things, and talk about the reality. And at this time, when we're living in American democracy, we're talking about humanity and justice, and that's what we should see, and that's what we should talk about. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Sir, you did mention one of the specific thing that the epics already has the problem of appreciating, meaning like Brahma, whatever that you were talking about. I have a question on that, saying, do you really think all of them, both epics, are really justifying all the mistakes that upper caste doing are the right? So, do you believe that? Do you have an answer for it?
Can you state the question again?
Yeah, okay. The question is, you can see
justification by whom?
Justification by upper caste.
Okay.
Justification by Brahmanas or whatever you want to say.
So usually they get furious if you talk about Rama
exactly.
Something about Rama, they'll get furious. So in recent incident Tamil Nadu, so somebody said like Andal is a goddess, people think. So then all the Brahmanical, the top layer, they came out the street and protested. So he's asking why. Is that your question?
No, more than that, I was just saying, okay, Rama went and killed Vali. Rama went and did all of that.
Shambhu.
Yeah, everything illegal. Nothing done right, straightforward.
Yeah.
So, why and what makes it justified right?
I think morally nothing is justified in Hinduism. And there are no ethical grounds and moral values in Hinduism as such. Though, for the sake of saying and stating, you see, truth, peace, and all those kind of blah blahs they claim. But actually, if you go look into their Puranas and Shastras, they are full of all these frauds. The question is, no society can survive for long as a judicious society if the society doesn't have the ethical grounds and moral grounds on which it really survives. So I think that's the one thing what we are seeing today is the result of the lack of those values. It was only Buddhism who inculcated those values in going against the grain of Brahmanism, and when it was under attack, those values survived in different ways, in waves of resistance movements, whether by Charavakas and Lokayatas and also after using Nath Yogis and Siddhas and so on. And then you have medieval saints who also in a way sustained those values. So there have been this counter cultures all along, but that has been suppressed. They have not been given that kind of importance in the histories books, because most of these books have been produced by Savarnas. So that's why you don't get the parallel stories. Otherwise there have been these parallel resistance movements all the time. And so much so that you see it was even in Maharashtra you have those egalitarian movements, and it is only when the Peshwas, the Brahmins, who were Brahmins, they usurped the power from the Shivaji's kind of revolution and then reintroduced the practices, untouchability and so on in Maharashtra, which otherwise they had already been wiped out. So it is a kind of reinforcement of Brahmanism under Peshwas, and from Peshwas it traveled to all over. You see, that is a kind of historical process where that's why Baba Sahib was saying there has been series of counter revolutions. There has been revolutions all along, but those revolutions have not been given adequate space in the historical text. Another interesting question was posed by some friend that used to talking about acquiring weapons and so on. And I think we should learn from Baba Sahib that all our struggles have to be constitutional. Otherwise, we are the people without means, because we don't have weapons. We cannot survive on that. Otherwise, if you take up the weapons, it is very easy for all the upper crust, you see, to use their resources, their weapons against our own people. And that's why he was very clear that whatever has to be achieved, it has to be achieved on through the constitutional means. And that's why he was a hard bargainer in Pune Pact, even when he was being blackmailed, you see, by this Mahatma, and he had to bargain, and that's why reservation came in. And whatever kind of, you see, improvement in our the life of Dalits have occurred or we have seen, it is only through this reservation policies. And it is truly said that these are just, you see, peanuts and crumbs, but much halabulla is created, you see, around reservation. If reservations were not there, whatever our people have achieved, that would never have been achieved. And this political dispensation, especially with BJP, they are removing even those avenues. There is abolition of roster system in the universities and colleges. And recently, there is a Central University of Tribal Studies instituted in Madhya Pradesh. The first 52 appointments that notification has been issued. Only one reserved seat is there. Otherwise 51 out of, and that is also a university that is being instituted for tribal studies, and there is only one. So they are abolishing everything silently. And people talking about, you see, no, it should be open for economically disadvantaged and so on. It has all been tricks, you see, which have been played. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for coming here. Thank you everyone for making it this far from the event that started at 2:30 and it's almost 5:30. So 3 hours of your time that you spent really, really well, I think. I'd like to thank all the speakers who came here and started the stimulating conversation. Peter, Sonali, Ellen Charan, Professor Hans and Dr. Sharat Lin. And thank you all for following that up with a very stimulating conversation. I'd like to recognize some few people who have worked tirelessly on this event, specifically from Ambedkar King Study Circle, Kanak, Chaitanya, Selva, Karthik, Lakshmi, and Nalan for taking the lead in organizing this event. I'd like to thank Asha for Education to book the hall. Gopi, thank you for handling the camera. American Tamil Radio for arranging for audio-video equipment. Asata, Vivek and Anu for taking the photographs from the event. And other people who have been very supportive of this event, named Rahul Kumar from North Tamil Nadu, Mr. Choklingam from Veterans Foundation, and Mr. Vinod Kumar from Ambedkar International Center. Thank you all for coming, and we hope that we can come to the next event. And I hope that from this event, everyone got something. Everyone got something, either it was a new learning about Baba Saheb's teaching, or it is an affirmation of why we need to root out all inequalities. So thank you, and we'll see you again.